Gopi Janavalabha Girdhari Gopi Janavalabha Girdhari Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamunatira vanachari Yamunatira vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Sri Radha Jaya Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva, Panchatattva, Jaya Panchatattva. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bhal, Hari Bhal, Hari Bhal, Bhal Hari Bhal. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Parivrajakacarya, Ashtavata Satat Srimad is Divine Grace, his companion Jara, Srila Abhacharya Navena Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Mahārāja Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Parivrajakacarya, Ashtavata Satat Srimad is Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Prabhupada Mahārāja Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavena Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Si Kahau Si Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Si Advaita Gadadhara Si Vatsadi Si Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Si Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Syamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Savindavan Dham Ki Jai. Si Mayapanavadev Dham Ki Jai. Si Jagannapuri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Yamunamai Ki Jai. Si Matatolsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavina Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Our glory is to the summoned devotees. Our glory is to the summoned devotees. Our glory is to the summoned devotees. Our glory is to Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottama Devim Saraswati Vyasa Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nastapaye Svabhadesu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavaiti Naistiki. So welcome to this morning get together, morning class. Our party started at about 4:30 and it's been, on different programs. What a wonderful schedule of a spiritual reawakening. So we started Mangarati, and then we have Shinga Kirtan, we have Tulsi Puja, then we do Japa, and then now we have to discuss about Krishna's pastimes, Krishna and his devotees' pastimes. So the whole idea of all of this is to engage our minds in Krishna consciousness, engage our minds and senses in Krishna consciousness, because the mind is very stubborn. Mind is not engaged, he will engage us. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, text 24 to 25. What is on the board is 25. So I will just read text 24. Ekadā dhanur udyamya vicaran mṛgayāṁ vane mṛgān man anugataḥ, śrāntaḥ, kṣudhitas, tṛṣito, bhṛśam. So what is on the board is text 25. So let's focus on that. Jala-āśayam acakṣāṇaḥ, praviveśa āśramam, dadarśa munim āsīnaṁ, śrāntaḥ mīlita-locanam, jala-āśayam acakṣāṇaḥ, praviveśa āśramam, dadarśa munim āsīnaṁ, śrāntaḥ mīlita-locanam. Can someone try? Mahārajas, more Mahārajas. Any more Mahārajas to recite the verse? So word for word translation, I will just go through with the previous text too. So repeat, please kindly respond after me. Ekadā. Word for word translation and purport by His Divine Graces Confounder Acharya Srila Abhachan Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. Thank you. Ekadā. Once upon a time, dhanur, arrows and bows, udyamya, taking family, vicaran, following, mṛgayāṁ, hunting excursion, vane, in a forest, mṛgān, stags, anugataḥ, while following, śrāntaḥ, fatigued, kṣudhitas, hungry. tṛṣito, being thirsty. bhṛśam, extremely. Jala-āśayam, reservoir of water. acakṣāṇaḥ, while searching for. praviveśa, entered into. Tam, that famous. āśramam, hermitage of Śamīka Ṛṣi. dadarśa, saw. munim, the sage. āsīnaṁ, seated. śrāntaḥ, all silent. mīlita, closed. locanam, eyes. So translation. Once upon a time, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, while engaged in hunting in the forest with bow and arrows, became extremely fatigued and hungry and thirsty while following the stags. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well-known Śamīka Ṛṣi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. Please responsibly repeat. Once upon a time, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, while engaged in hunting in a forest with bow and arrows, became extremely fatigued, hungry and thirsty, while following the stags. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well-known Śamīka Ṛṣi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. Purport. The Supreme Lord is so kind to his pure devotees that in proper time he calls such devotees up to him and thus creates an auspicious circumstance for the devotee. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was a pure devotee of the Lord, and there was no reason for him to become extremely fatigued, hungry, and thirsty, because a devotee of the Lord never becomes perturbed by such bodily demands. But by the desire of the Lord, even such a devotee can become apparently fatigued and thirsty just to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activities. One has to give up all attachment for worldly relations before one is able to go back to Godhead. And thus, when a devotee is too much absorbed in worldly affairs, the Lord creates a situation to cause indifference. The Supreme Lord never forgets his pure devotee, even though he may be engaged in so-called worldly affairs. Sometimes he creates an awkward situation, and the devotee becomes obliged to renounce all worldly affairs. The devotee can understand by the signal of the Lord, but others take it to be unfavorable and frustrating. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was to become the medium for the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam by Lord Krishna, as his grandfather Arjuna was the medium for the Bhagavad Gita. Had Arjuna not been taken up with an illusion of family affection by the will of the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita would not have been spoken by the Lord himself for the good of all concerned. Similarly, had Parīkṣit not been fatigued, hungry, and thirsty at this time, Srimad Bhagavatam will not have been spoken by Srila Sukadeva Goswami, the prime authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a prelude to the circumstances under which the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken for the benefit of all concerned. The prelude, therefore, begins with the words, Once upon a time. Om agyana timirandasya, agyana janansalakaya, saksura militam jena tasmai. Si gurave namaha. Sucetanya manobistam, stapitam yena bhutal, swayam rupam kadamayam, dadarśa padantakam. Pancha kalpataredacha, kripasundhya evacha, patitanam pavanebhyo, vaishnavibhyo namo namo. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale, Semate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Itinam, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharine, Nirvisesa Sonya Vadi, Pashatya Disatarina, Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Si Advaita Gadadara, Si Vatsadi, Sagora Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So again, welcome everyone to these Bhagavatam discussions. And what we can see in the text itself is that Mahārāja Parīkṣit has left to the forest for hunting. And so one who has an introspective mindset may query, is the devotee supposed to engage in hunting? There are different, activities for different people in different ashrams or different occupational situations. So the Kshatriyas, they are allowed to exercise their power of fighting, first with the animals. They want to see how accurately they could shoot an animal from a very long distance. And so they are also allowed to take some intoxication. But the point is that Mahārāja Parīkṣit was fatigued after searching in the forest. When you go into the forest for hunting, you don't sit down in one place. You have to keep moving. You have to keep walking. If you carry a den gun, or even if you carry an automatic rifle, you have to search for those animals that you will exercise your power of kshatriyaship. So he had walked for a long distance, and he became fatigued, hungry, thirsty. So he was looking for where to get some reservoir of water. And then he came into Śamīka Ṛṣi's hermitage. Now Prabhupada mentioned something very interesting in the purport, the very last paragraph. He said, this is the prelude. Prelude means, in literature, prelude means something that has to be put up, to like a preliminary thing that will give the audience or the listener or the reader some fundamental understanding. Or if it is in academic report writing, we say the background of the study. So this very verse is like the background of the whole of the Bhagavatam. The background story of the whole of the Bhagavatam. Because it was this encounter that led to the Bhagavatam having been spoken by Sukadeva Goswami to Parīkṣit. The other important factor is that
Parīkṣit, as a human being, as a pure devotees also they have sensations, they have feelings. Sometimes people think that the pure devotees, they should not have any feelings. Whatever you do to them is okay, but it is not true. They also eat. They've acquired a body to be able to function, to disseminate Krishna consciousness, and they have to be able to take care of that body. The functionality of that body is what is required for maintenance. But here, the devotee encounters a calamity. When he went into this hermitage of Śamīka Ṛṣi, practically all of you know the background, the whole story. But then Parīkṣit, what was his response to the situation? Sometimes we think we are devotees, and so we should not have any calamities. We should not have any challenges in our lives. Or we think we are devotees and everything should just be baka. No problems at all. But we find that even in the life of the perfected souls, there are reversals. Parīkṣit was proactive when that curse came upon him. He could reverse the curse, but no, he accepted it in goodwill. He was proactive. And what did he do? Proaction means someone does something to you, and you think, how can I help this person? Or how can I help myself out of this situation? You don't try to punish the person. So there is reaction and there is proaction. What happens in modern day civilization is basically something transpires and there is a reaction from those concerned. So if someone hurts you, for instance, you could be reactive and curse the person if you have the powers. And cursing is always just a common thing, We had also the case of Yamaraj, who was cursed by Mandukmani. So to be cursed, for a devotee to be cursed is just a common thing. Are we ready to be proactive when there is a curse? Or we will be reactive? See, we read the story. We've been hearing it over again and again. But one of the important factors the Prabhupada mentions in the purport is that Krishna allowed the situation to transpire for a specific purpose. And that purpose is for the transmission of the Bhagavatam through this very wonderful great soul, Parīkṣit Maharaj. So here we find that his name is known, his head is glorified all over the three worlds by dint of proaction. By dint of proaction. When the curse transpired, he sought for the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he went to make some inquiries. He took shelter of Sukadev Goswami to receive that transcendental narratology about the pastimes of the Lord. You could have gone to anybody else to receive some narrations about some other demigod, some demigod or whatever. But because he is a devotee, he sought to hear the messages of Uttama Sloka. Why? Because the messages of the Uttama Sloka, they are liberating. They invoke that inherent love of God, that dormant love of God. And when one is proactive, Krishna gives you the appropriate intelligence to be able to move forward in dealing with your challenge. So, like in modern times, in management and in social sciences, we have this concept of change. Here is change in action. Here is a typical example of change. How do you deal with change? Do you reject it or you accept it? Parīkṣit accepted that change in good faith. He processed it and accepted it and executed a process to be able to excel in the process, to be able to deal with the crisis. So there's so many things in the Bhagavatam, but they are put in a story format. Here is also a case of crisis management. Parīkṣit was in a crisis. And how did he manage the crisis? He sought for shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord through the help of Sukadev Goswami, who enlightened him. And he was fully situated to meet with the end point of that very situation. People are afraid of death like anything. And you don't have a reason to accuse them of not being afraid of death. If something you don't know what is going to... Imagine someone comes to your house with a Mercedes and with guns. He said, "Hey, Govinda, come into this car quickly." First thing is that you will resist. He said, "What? To where? What?" Because you don't know where they're taking you to. Death is also like that. If you don't know what is going to transpire after death, why must you not resist? Michael Jackson, he put himself in a cage, well furnished medically, so that no disease so that he will not be affected by any disease. So this is how much we try to protect ourselves from death. Why? Because we don't know what happens after death. But Parīkṣit, he knows that when you are able to become Krishna conscious, death is like a stepping stone. So what did he do? He sought to understand. He sought to hear the glories of the Lord. In fact, some devotees may even pray like Mura-Kunti for more calamities. Although Parīkṣit did not really pray for more calamities, he's gone to the final calamity, death. It's coming, pending. So the question to you is, would you pray for more calamities? You? I remember some years ago I was in Delhi temple, and I had a friend. At that time he was still in college. He was doing an engineering program. So they were supposed to come to Mayapur for a yatra. He was supposed to lead some students to come to Mayapur for a yatra. And he went to Radha Parthasarati to pray to Radha Parthasarati that my lordships, I don't want to go to this yatra. You do something about it. You do something about it. You know what their lordship did? You know what they did? They arranged for him to get an accident. Where all of the students, everybody else know that he cannot go to the yatra. One devotee, he gone to the deities. He was suffering so much trouble, so much suffering. He went to the deities and prayed to Radha Krishna. He said, my Lord, just take my life. Just take my life, it's just too much. You know what the Lordship arranged for him? He had a terrible accident. But Krishna did not take his life. He went into coma. He got resuscitated. But Krishna did not take his life. So the point is, we cannot force Krishna. We cannot force our will on Krishna. And therefore, the important factor is to be able to see how we are accepting the change, how we are processing the change, how we are seeking a permanent solution to the change, taking shelter of the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, when the challenges are there, according to Mother Kunti, that is the time that we will be able to experience apuna bhava darshanam. We will not experience repeated birth and death again. But not everyone has that zeal, that courage, that devotion to be able to take challenges, to be able to take calamities, or to even pray for more calamities. So my point is, if you pray for calamities, see, if you pray for good things, it's very difficult. But if you want to try, just go to Radha Madhava and pray for some bad thing. You pray for good thing, it takes a long time. So, we all have to deal with the challenges of our lives. And so when the challenges come, we should also understand that Krishna does not give us a challenge. Krishna does not allow a challenge that we cannot process, that we cannot deal with, to befall us. It may look like it's just too much. Sometimes people commit suicide. They have a divorce. I remember one of my friends had a divorce, and I had to be on the phone with him like every day, 4 hours. Counseling him, giving him support. Because it could be so devastating. The person you love most in your life, he comes to tell you, hey, quit. People commit suicide. So these are just minor changes that we may encounter. But the most challenging change is death. And therefore the whole of Krishna consciousness is to prepare us for death. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajanti anti kalevara. Parīkṣit passed the test. It is our duty to be able to facilitate everyone else around us to pass their test. And so it is important for us to become properly situated in Krishna consciousness, so that Krishna can use us a medium in helping others. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was used for the transmission of the Srimad Bhagavatam. His grandfather Arjuna was used for the transmission of the Bhagavad Gita. Our spiritual masters want us to be used for disseminating Krishna consciousness. And if we do that, the purpose of our life is met. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the nice class. In the purport, Prabhupada is saying that Mahārāja Parīkṣit was a pure devotee of the Lord. But in the next sentence, Prabhupada is also saying that he needed this so he can get rid of the attachments and other things. So it seems like a paradox. How do we understand?
Yeah. You see, we all have attachments. If I tell you my own story, you'll be amazed. All of us, we have attachments. So, Mahārāja Parīkṣit also has attachment. Arjuna had attachments, serious ones. And Krishna, it took Krishna a lot of time to persuade Arjuna. Some of us, we need self-persuasion to be able to deal with the attachments. Some of us, we need others to persuade us to deal with the attachment. Some of us, we need a real big challenge between the persons that we are attached to and ourselves to become disgusted with that relationship. So, yes, Arjuna was very much attached. When you talk of attachment, it affects all of us. And this is a Grihastha community. So you can't just be talking. you can't come up and start, condemning attachment or condemning relationships or family life and all this stuff. And Arjuna was very much attached to family life. And except we become detached from family life, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, it is very difficult to have an ingress into the spiritual world. In fact, that is why in the beginning one has to practice celibate life. And then as one progresses, he goes a step forward, he goes higher, and then it becomes a grihastha. It's no longer only trying to deal with his senses and mind alone. He's dealing with the other people's mind and senses, trying to help other people in his family. And then after that, also you are supposed to retire from the family. Some people say there's no need to retire from the family. And of course, these days, it's unlike the early period in Krishna in our movement where the men can just abandon their family and go and take sannyas. This time around, women and children are highly protected. You can't just run away. If you want to leave, your wife will sign a document that will be shown to the GBC that you have satisfied all the conditions. So it's not a joke. Attachment is there, and we have to practically learn how to become detached if even we are in a very wonderful relationship. We are amidst a wonderful family. Because what we remember at the time of death, that will determine our destination. And the process of Krishna consciousness is to gradually help us to become detached from social values, professional inclinations, and whatever. If you are very talented, you could also become attached to those skills and talents. And that could be an obstacle. So the whole idea is that we have to be able to see that we are making Krishna the center of our lives. But we should not be fanatical and tell people, oh, you're in Maya. Because Krishna also had a family. He has parents. And that's a wonderful, and there was a wonderful rapport, wonderful relationship in his family, between himself and his family. I remember one story in the Govinda Lilamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And when Krishna had finished his meal and himself and his cowherd boys, they were proceeding into the forest with the calves and cows. And so when they went to the princess of the village, Krishna turned back and he saw that the whole of the Brajabasis, they're following behind him and his parents. And so he had to plead with them that they should go back. And so the parents said, see, your soft feet, you're not even putting on any shoes. And no parasol to protect you from the sun. And Krishna said, but the cows, what about the cows? They don't have shoes on. They don't have parasols. So why should I? My duty is to protect the cows. So if I have to put on shoes and carry a parasol, that's not cow protection. So they have this nice rapport. So family life also, there's a wonderful pleasure in it. But we have to understand that gradually we should be detached from this very situation. So it's best for people to get married and then they practice to become detached. Instead of thinking, I'm missing so much. But it's best for people not to get married at all. But if people don't get married, what about all these beautiful girls? I mean, who is going to... So the thing is we put Krishna in the center and practice the detachment in our sadhana. Yeah. Again, this is a grihastha community. We should not be fanatical. You want to be a brahmachari, good for you, be brahmachari. But don't be fanatical. Don't preach to everybody. Or if you're not a brahmachari, then you're just a Maya. Bhaktivinoda wasn't a brahmachari. All right, what's the time now? Oh, we still have 5 minutes. I'm conscious about time because we have to close at 9 o'clock. But it's also good when we close before 9 o'clock. Okay.
As you were speaking, Maharaj, I was remembering about Kardama Muni. His son was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but still he left his family. So how wonderful it would be to have a son like the Supreme, but still he left his family. So to set an example.
Yeah. Kardama Muni set a very good example for us. I remember, this is a story, this is not a Puranic story, but in the US. So I had a friend, and one of my friends, he told me how he told his wife that, our daughter is grown up, is finished college, so I can take Vanaprastha. She said, there's no need for that. You're a devotee, I'm a devotee. Let's be together for the rest of our lives. And chant Hare Krishna. So, Kardama Muni set a good example, but in our system in ISKCON, there are some documentations that will be instituted before you try to act like Kardama Muni. So we are practicing women protection, okay? So Mataji, you like this, right? All right. In the okay, yes. Last question.
Maharaj, not question. I was just thinking about something. Like you said, like you asked me, like whether I will take some difficulties, challenges. So I was thinking regarding that part that parents, they happily take challenges for their children. They take up all the miseries and everything. So same thing in devotional life. So if we develop attachment for devotees, then we'll happily take up challenges for. Is it like the right way to think?
Yeah. Our duty is to be able to help, like I mentioned before, to facilitate the other devotees to pass their test. That is love. Every devotee you see around have some challenges. Are we helping them to be able to pass through with your challenges? We already have calamities. We have sufficient. So what we can do is to become more favorably disposed to our God brothers and God sisters. We should see ourselves as a family, Christian family. And a member of your family is having some difficulties, voluntarily you opt out to be able to help. Otherwise, we can become big philosophers and do nothing to help anyone. And Bhakti Siddhanta was very much against that. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.